Hey anyone, how's it going and welcome to Bite Size Marathons. In this video, I'm going to be reviewing Black Widow after I watched it in the theaters. My original intro didn't survive for some reason, so this is me while editing. Let's just get into it. And I'm back. I'm back in my car after watching the movie. Wow. First of all, I want to say that it's nice to see Marvel back on the big screen. The shows are great and all, but that Marvel Studios intro, that belongs on the big screen. And to be honest, those at my theater kind of agreed, because I got claps. There were claps in my theater when that studio logo played again. And it's nice to come back to the big screen. I'm glad I got to see this movie on here. What can I say about it? If one thing, maybe it's the show's spoiling me again, but at least in the first third, Black Widow may be the most action-packed MCU movie ever. I mean, honestly, the first third of the movie was action, 2 minutes of something, action, 2 minutes of resting, action, 2 minutes of resting. I mean, it's nuts. But it was fun as hell. I want to go more into it. There's some theories I have. The end credit was cool, but I have barely any lighting in here right now, and my video and audio quality is terrible. So I'll go finish this off when I'm at home. See you there. And I'm back home. And if I haven't already said this multiple times, Black Widow was awesome. Just a top-notch action movie, sure, but top-notch action movie. Like Mission Impossible meets Marvel. It was great. It really did bring back the vibes of Winter Soldier with all the, heavy hand-to-hand combat. There's even a moment where Taskmaster does the exact same knife flip that Winter Soldier uses at one point. It was really fun to catch that. And another thing, it does also tie into Civil War, because it also uses those big white title, location cards that Civil War used. So it's a nice visual tie-in back there. Honestly, this is going to be more like rambling at this point, because I just got a whole bunch of scattered thoughts about the movie. As I said, in the car, first third, lots and lots of action. And maybe it felt even worse because the shows we've been getting so far are leisurely compared to a normal movie. So, can't really do much about that, but it was a lot of action. It was a lot of fun, right? We got to go from, okay, yeah, now she's escaping this, to, oh, he just blew her car up. And then, oh, look, they're fighting now. It was great. First, right in the beginning, I really loved that trick where it's like, it's one of those scenes where you see the police coming or something to arrest a person, that person talking, and then, oops, we find out that, no, they aren't actually in the same place. I'm not sure which movie started that. I've seen it in a few places. I don't know if I've seen the movie that did it first or not, but I love seeing that trick. And I figured that when I saw it, but it's still hilarious. Just like, oh yeah, we got you surrounded. And it's like, even more funny because it's like, do you really think this master spy would actually be carrying around her Black Widow suit now? That's silly. Speaking of that, I almost wish we had got that rumored scene of Tony telling her to run. Would have been nice to see Tony one more time, but I'm glad. Speaking of seeing it a good time, it's great to see Natasha in her own movie. Like, honestly, it's been too long. It's really sad that it's this late and it ended up being a prequel to her death. And that the end credit scene wasn't something her doing something cool, but to actually see her gravestone. But we'll get into the end credit scene later. But yeah, it's kind of sad, but whatever. We still got it, and it was still cool. Enjoyed the hell out of it. It's really interesting how they took really tiny words from the first Avengers and sprawled these into this whole story. I will never be able to watch. We will never be able to watch Avengers the same again. I mean, Dreykov's daughter. That's Taskmaster. spoilers if you didn't read the giant spoiler text. But Dreykov's daughter is the Taskmaster, which is nuts. Even I didn't expect it. I thought going into this that it might be that guy who helped her get those planes, but nope, it's her. Dreykov turned his own daughter into the Taskmaster, and after blowing it up. And speaking of all this, and we also know what Budapest is. Unfortunately, we didn't see it. I would have liked to see it, but Budapest and Dreykov was apparently the exact same thing, right? She blew up the building, and then she and Hawkeye had to fight an army of police slash soldiers. I can't remember which word they used, right? And that's why them fighting that army was something reminding her of Budapest in that movie. But they also spent ages in a vent. I really love that detail where there's a little tic-tac-toe scribbled on the wall. Just imagine Clint and Natasha just sitting there doing tic-tac-toe for days on end. They spent 10 days apparently in that vent. It's just insane. It's maddening. I can't imagine sitting in that tiny spot for 10 days. How did you have enough supplies? Going even further back, I liked the cold opening to, her family. It almost makes me wish I wasn't as much of a nerd as I am, because I knew it was going to happen beforehand. Like, I knew that was her, and I knew everything. It's like, I wonder what it would be like for someone who has no clue, who's like, hey, why are we focusing on this random family and this blue-haired girl, right? And then, like, the reveal, oh, that's Natasha. And it's like, what? That's insane. It was nice seeing that little family moment. Let's talk about the family itself. Red Guardian, Alexei. I didn't really expect that. I didn't expect the character we got. This slovenly Russian sexist. Well, he wasn't really sexist, but there were some questionable things that I wasn't expecting. I'm just like, I didn't expect him to be as iffy a character as he ended up being, and it was a total surprise. But it was a funny surprise. And this obsession that it's like, hey, I want to match up against Captain America, but you are in totally different generations. That scene of him squishing into his suit. I thought it was very strange. This him hugging them is like, you are the best assassins ever. And the very thing that Natasha hated, her dripping red leisure, he's proud of. And that's a very huge contrast. He's happy for them and proud. In the same sentence where it's like, wow, you're an Avenger. You're saying, wow, you're an Avenger because you've killed so many people and aliens. Didn't expect that out of him. I don't know. It was funny. If anything, the most disappointing thing is we got him in his suit, but we didn't get him his shield. It's like, Melina, you apparently had his suit for 50 years. 50, because he hadn't been Red Guardian for 30 years by the point of the end of the flashback. So apparently he's had access to, she's had the suit for at least 20 years, probably 50 years. And it's like, where did the shield go? But I don't know. It would have been fun to see him do some shield tricks. I also didn't expect, I didn't see the more recent trailers. I kind of stopped. I wanted to see the movie. So I didn't know that he was going to be a super soldier. I thought he was just a buff guy. Hey, I didn't mind it. It's like, okay, let's add him to the list. I need to go. Oh, we got another super soldier on the list. It was crazy. Then the mom, Melina. I kind of figured she'd be iffy on the sides, right? But all of these family relations are very strange. It's like, you have on one hand, he's like, it's very strange. It was like she turned them in, but it was that turning point where it's like, you did help us after all. And just seeing that motherly bond, right, where she kind of feels for them, but it was a mission in the first place. It's a very strange thing, right? They're trying to have this thing that was never entirely real in the first place. I really loved the fake out. It turns out, hey, look, those face swappers are back again. Face swappers are back again. I actually didn't expect that to happen. I thought, oh, okay, this is gonna be a thing, but no. Back to the family. Yelena, actually, I really loved that. She is a lot like Natasha, but you know, not as great, not as self confident, right? Even that first, meet up scene where they're just holding guns at each other. Natasha is advancing forward easily, and while Yelena's trying to match her presence, she's being pushed back the whole time. But when it comes to combat, obviously they're more equally matched. It was a really cool action scene in that kitchen. And, and then afterwards was like, what kind of bullets are those? It's like, no, those are arrows. I'm really excited to see what we have Yelena moving forward. Right, this is her introduction, and it definitely looks like she's going to be a more significant character that we're going to see more of going forward, and it's going to be fun. I loved that little thing, turning that jacket piece Natasha had into Yelena's jacket. It was really nice. It did remind me of the Last Jedi though, or the Last Jedi and Solo, where they turned the dice. Han's just random set piece dice in the Millennium Falcon into this more significant thing. But I don't mind retroactively giving smaller objects bigger roles. It's not bad. And the idea that this Quinjet isn't actually the Quinjet they stole, it's another one. I don't know how this guy got it though. It's like, excuse me, who stole this Quin? Somebody had to steal this Quinjet for that contractor to get it, right? How? So it was really, again, small object having more story. I love it. The idea that next time I'm watching Infinity War, I know who gave Natasha that jet. And I love Natasha's, interactions with the family. She's trying not to get, you know, attached, right? She's trying to put up the wall that this was never real, right? Because it's hard. Like, these people don't seem to care about her as much. But once she gets to hear that her original mother did actually look for her, I don't know where I'm going with this really. I've lost my train of thought, but I really like how I should just remove it. But I'll keep it in because rambling review, right? So I really like that family dynamic she had, just on off. Like, what is this idea? This is her family. This is her connect. This is her one of her first family, but it's an interesting way to kind of be after Endgame. Endgame, she calls the Avengers her family, right? And so, give it this family in Black Widow has to be, distant. It's not. You're connected. You care about each other, but it's not as strong a familial tie as she now has with the Avengers, right? You got a dad who is silly and weird, but he's just like really proud of the murders that you hate about yourself. A mom that is responsible for mind controlling hundreds of girls, well, more over hundreds of girls. Who knows how many? They count and pigs into doing horrible things without their thing. And a sister, the one thing that she could actually did have a connection with. You knew that if she was saying it's not real, she wasn't really speaking to Yelena because we saw that flashback. Natasha didn't care about the mother being taken away, but as soon as Yelena was trying to be pulled away, she took that gun and even as a kid threatened to kill people to defend Yelena. Right? She cares about her. So I thought the sister relationship with the two was actually really really well done. As for the story, Dreykov was, interesting, like Bond villain, like ha, look at me, I have implanted all this nonsense across the globe. But it was really fun. I actually figured it out before the reveal. Like you could see blood coming out of Natasha's nose, and I'm like, why would they add that detail? They usually don't do that. Facial blemishes either are big and noticeable or not happening at all. So what's this? And I'm like, oh, pheromones. If she can't smell, she ain't gonna be doing it. So she got him to punch him in the face for a reason. It was great. It's like, oh no, too weak. I've smashed my own nose against the table, and then I'll knock you out. It was great. All right, my camera just died. Hopefully the footage was saved, but I don't know. If you had to just watch a few minutes of black screen, I'm sorry. Hopefully I'll fill in something in there. But I don't. But I guess we'll just have to wait and see. Well, I'll wait and see. You already know. Dreykov nose, mustache twirling. I thought that was a really, really clever turn for her to get him to exposit by thinking that he's in control. That's nice. It's again another tie back to the Avengers that it's like, she makes herself seem like she's the vulnerable one, and that's the best way to get someone talking, because villains exposit. They just can't help themselves. I thought that was great. Another tie back to this kind of integral part of her character. More random thoughts. We saw Ross. He looked terrible. He really did. So I think that that clearly is setting up a Red Hulk turn for Ross. If you don't know, in the comics, Ross becomes a Hulk himself, only he is red. I think by putting his health at risk is definitely setting up the fact that he will be driven to become a Hulk himself. Hulk, out of everyone, has been his original super enemy, right? This is the guy he wanted to turn into a weapon before anything else happened. So if he's dying or if he's super sickly, it makes sense for him to want that power for himself. So I am definitely leaning hard for a Red Hulk turn in our future. Maybe it'll happen in She-Hulk, maybe in a different movie, but it's going to happen. Speaking of Ross, I'm very interested to see what Natasha did to get out of that situation. I mean, Ross was there. She was there. How did she get out? Did she bargain with that USB full of hidden agents? I'd have to guess, but I'm kind of weirded out that they didn't show us and it just faded to black. Honestly, it made me feel like one of the episodes of the show again. Oh, black. Come back next week for the next episode where we'll find out how Natasha gets out of this. But no, fades to black. Who knows how she got out of there? And then she gets a Quinjet. Another random thing. Dreykov's Fortress. I love it. I love the Helicarrier when we first got it, and the other three Helicarriers were cool too. But this idea of this giant flying thing in the clouds, not in space, in the clouds, is just cool. And it isn't done often enough in my eyes. But it was instead of a traditional helicarrier, this thing was more like a floating platform, and I liked the visual difference. It was just really fun. It's like, oh yeah, how is he going to stay above radar? Well, he's literally above the radar. He's really. It was just a really cool thing. The Red Room is this flying thing, and the trailer made it clear. It's like, no, this thing isn't gonna land. This thing is definitely gonna fall out of the sky. Even if it wasn't the trailer, that was gonna happen. The Taskmaster fight scenes were really cool. This kind of mirror effect, using the tricks. I'm interested to see how someone with a little bit more time than I can go and, put the clips together to show her. I keep still calling Taskmaster him, but it's a show her moves side by side with the one she's copying from the movies. Because even from what I could see, I'm very sure that a lot of those moves were ripped straight out of previous movies. It was an excellent way to see Taskmaster. I know a few people will be disappointed because with this twist, Taskmaster isn't really the comics character it was anymore, and you know, it makes future returns hard. The mask. Was asking why the mask didn't have just skull eye holes. It should be easy, right? And clearly they did this because they were gonna have the mask like scanning and screening the whole time, and showing this live HUD. And it's really interesting. I don't know if I use that word a lot. I love the fact that you could actually see the HUD from the outside of the mask. You don't see that often. The HUD just exists for some reason. And only the people on the inside can see it. But the fact that you could see it on the goggles, even from the outside, loved that effect. Was Loved it. It really gave a robotic feeling to Taskmaster. And the revelation I may have said this already, that she was the daughter that Natasha killed that she felt so bad about. It's nuts. The action was solid all the way through. I don't think I didn't like a single scene. Of course, it's hard to disappoint me, but I loved it. The overall plot, good. The Red Room is Natasha is on the run, but the Red Room is still active. So this is time to go back and do this again. And go back. But the Red Room is still active. It's time to gather the family and take it down. The end credits scene. Let's finish that. This was really cool because obviously this is the first end credit scene to tie into the shows instead of another movie. Clearly this was supposed to be our first introduction to Contessa Valentina, which, because of the pandemic, we got in Falcon and Winter Soldier first. So it's really interesting the fact that originally this was supposed to be our introduction. It's like, who's this lady? And then in Falcon, we're supposed to be like, hey, look, it's that lady. It's clear that she's being set up as this kind of anti-hero Nick Fury, recruiting people to form, Dark Avengers or something. Don't know what they're going to call it. To do some undercover, maybe less than heroic missions. I can't wait to see where that pans out in the future. They're clearly starting to plan something new, and I can't wait to see it. And secondly, it ties into Hawkeye, because we've been hearing stuff about Florence Pugh appearing in the show, but now we know why. She's an antagonist. Valentina just set her on Hawkeye's path. Clint is going to be hunted by her because she's blamed for Natasha's sacrifice. And I don't know how that's going to end up. A conversation about, oh yeah, we needed this magical stone. And to get the magical stone, somebody had to self-sacrifice themselves. So we fought each other for the right to self-sacrifice ourselves. And then I jumped off a cliff, and then she saved my life, and then she jumped off the cliff. See, it's not really my fault. I tried my best to kill myself, but she wouldn't let me. Like, what kind of conversation is that? But it's one that's going to need to be had. And, it's really interesting because that picture of him is actually in his Ronin costume, which again makes me hope that Hawkeye will revisit his Ronin days, because those are a huge blank. 5 years of blank where he turned into a literal murderer, which unfortunately, once Yelena digs into, she's going to turn more against him, because it's like, oh, there's a lot of evidence here that you're a mass murderer, because you kind of are. It's really interesting to see that, show tie-in from the movies. Can't wait to see where she'll, pop back up next. If Red Guardian will pop back up next. Overall, just fun. I'm glad that I got to sit in a movie theater again. I want to go see the movie a second time. It's my tradition, actually, for many years now to have seen every MCU movie twice in the theaters. So hopefully I can, do it again. What was your favorite part of the movie? And do you want more Marvel prequels? I want more Marvel prequels. That would be awesome. Over here is a random video recommended by YouTube. Over here is a playlist of all my videos, and on my face is the subscribe button. Like, comment, subscribe, criticize even. I don't mind. See ya.